recommendation made by our health and medical experts.
Right, but there wouldn't be any plans to travel without a crowd and to go out into the country?
We may travel, certainly, but I have nothing to preview for you at this point in time. What I'm conveying is that it is vital for the President and the Vice President and every member of our team to be speaking directly to the American people. And so we're looking for creative ways to do that.
Can I ask you a foreign policy question? After Alexei Navalny was poisoned last summer, then candidate Biden said there was no doubt that the Kremlin was responsible for his poisoning, and he vowed to, quote, hold the Putin regime accountable. This week you told us that the president conveyed his concerns to President Putin, but he hasn't yet taken any action to hold Russia accountable. So I wonder, does President Biden hold President Putin directly responsible for the poisoning of Alexei Navalny? And if so, why hasn't he yet taken sanctions action to punish Russia for its actions?
Well, first, the president spoke with President Putin earlier this week, as you know, and he did not hold back in his concerns about a number of the actions of the Kremlin and of the Russian government. But there is a review underway that we have spoken about a bit in here by our national security team, and we'll let that review carry forward. That includes the SolarWinds breach. It includes the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. It includes I'm kind of losing my thought here, but it includes a number of steps, a number of concerning actions they've taken. We want that review to carry forward and to be completed, and the president always reserves the right to respond in the manner of his choosing and at the time of his choosing.
Does he hold President Putin responsible for the attempted assassination of Alexei Navalny?
We're going to let the review carry forward, and then I'm sure we'll have more to say about it at that point in time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. The New York Attorney General released a report yesterday saying that the state had undercounted the number of COVID deaths by as much as 50% in nursing homes. Would President Biden support a federal investigation into what happened in Governor Andrew Cuomo's role?
I've seen those reports. I would say any investigation, I would point you to the Department of Justice.
Does the White House think that it should be looked into further?
Again, any investigation would be led by the Department of Justice. We're in a new age. They're independent, and they will determine what paths they take moving forward.
Okay, on immigration, I know you said yesterday that it was never 100% that today was going to be Immigration Day, that it was just an early draft and things changed. But can you help us understand what exactly changed and why it's taking a little bit longer for these executive orders and actions on immigration to execute?
Sure. It's of course been widely reported that the president is planning to announce his task force, or now plans to announce his launch of a task force on reunifying families and children, something that is he's personally committed to. His wife, Dr. Biden, is personally committed to and invested in, and he will plan to make that announcement next Tuesday. The task force will be led by Secretary of Homeland Security once he's confirmed, Ali Mayorkas, and we had planned to sign that executive order today, or at the end of this week, I should say. Early plans sometimes do change, and that was a draft plan, which those change many times, I can assure you, from sitting through many scheduling meetings. But we had planned to do it this week because we'd hoped that Ali Mayorkas would be confirmed by the end of this week. But because of the filibuster of his nomination, we expect him to be confirmed on Monday evening, and therefore the president will sign it on Tuesday, and then Secretary Mayorkas will be overseeing that moving forward.
Okay, one more question, a foreign one. Can you give us just a little bit more of a timeline in terms of how much longer you think it will take for the White House to engage with Iran on its nuclear program? Because you had one of Iran's top diplomats saying yesterday that it believes the window is closing.
Well, I'm not going to give a timeline on it. Obviously, it requires Iran complying with the requirements of the nuclear deal. We've said previously, but I will reiterate here, that the president also sees it as an opportunity to build on the plan from there. And I apologize, I just want to make sure I give you the exact language. He believes that through follow-on diplomacy, the U.S. should seek to lengthen and strengthen these nuclear constraints and address other issues of concern, including Iran's ballistic missiles program and its regional activity. But again, Iran must resume compliance with the the significant nuclear constraints under the deal. Now, he's also talked about, and thematically we've talked about, how working with our partners and allies, including the Europeans, members of the P5+1, is pivotal to any engagement moving forward, of course, including on what the future of the Iran nuclear deal is. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Just a follow-up on Iran. Would the president consider meeting with his Iranian counterpart, Hossein Rouhani, and maybe following President Obama's example, for a starter, have a telephone conversation with him?
I think we're getting a little bit ahead of where we are in the process. Again, the first step here is for Iran to comply with the significant nuclear constraints under the deal. But I am certain we will continue to discuss this issue in here and at the State Department and other parts of government. Go ahead. Steve Holland.
Oh, hi.
I didn't even recognize you with your mask for a second.
Just to follow up on Jeremy's question,
Yes.
did President Biden specifically call on President Putin to release Alexei Navalny?
Yes, as we have publicly, as our team has repeatedly called for through the course of the last several weeks. In terms of the specifics of the conversation, I don't have any more details for you on that.
We don't know what Putin said, or did he make any promises?
I don't have anything to read out on President Putin's comments, no.
In the wake of the GameStop trading incident, is there a public role the White House can play in educating people about the dangers of this type of trading?
Well, Steve, I know the SEC issued a new statement earlier this morning or just before I came out here, and I'd certainly point you to that and others to that. And we, of course, respect the role of regulatory agencies. They are closely monitoring the situation, but it's under their purview at this point in time. And I guess part of our education can be conveying to people that the SEC is the regulatory body that would oversee this and can speak to it further. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Two on Capitol security. So the acting chief of police up on Capitol Hill has recommended a permanent fencing around the Capitol. I was wondering if the Biden White House or President Biden himself has any thoughts on this, if permanent fencing is the right answer, or does it project the wrong picture to the American public?
I'm not sure we're going to have any comment on that specifically, but I'm happy to talk to our National Security, Homeland Security team if we have anything further to add.
Sure. And a quick follow-up. Speaker Pelosi said, I believe it was yesterday, that she feels that threats are coming from inside the House, with other members being allowed to carry guns. Of course, we have conspiracy theorists among the ranks of the GOP now. Does the White House agree with that assessment that there is security threats coming from inside the House? Has Biden spoken to Pelosi, and is he worried about the safety, the physical safety of members of Congress?
Well, he speaks with Speaker Pelosi on a regular basis and certainly has reiterated his support for her and members of the caucus. And he has spoken publicly about his concerns about the rhetoric, of course, around the events of January 6th, but some of the rhetoric that has continued and the role of social media platforms. So he is in close touch with her about events on the Capitol, about the safety of members, but I don't think I have anything more for you to read out beyond that. Go ahead in the back.
Thank you, Jen. Two quick foreign and one domestic, if that's okay. Can you confirm officially that Robert Malley's been appointed special envoy for Iran? Is that?
I can. I believe it was announced this morning, yes? Or I guess I can confirm it here too for you.
And then as you know, settlements have been a major obstacle to getting the Palestinians back to the negotiating table. Would President Biden consider it? Does he believe settlements should be halted in the West Bank so that the Palestinians will come back?
I don't have any new comments from President Biden on this or the current circumstance. He's obviously spoken to this particular issue in the past and conveyed that he doesn't believe security assistance should be tied, but I don't have anything more for you on the path forward toward a two-state solution.
Following up on the Capitol Hill fence, there's a fence outside here, a temporary one around the White House. It's been up since last summer. President Trump took a lot of criticism for it. Would President Biden consider bringing that fence down so people can take photos in front of the White House again?
Well, I think we'd all like that, including members of my family and people in Washington. But I will talk to our security team and see if there's anything further to convey to all of you. Go ahead.
As you guys are thinking about the task force to reunite the parents and the separated children, what are you sort of learning about the scope of that challenge? Since it's something that groups have tried to do in the past and failed, how many people do you think would need to be tasked to that to actually make it effective?
Those are excellent questions, and I expect that when we announce, when the president signs the executive order next week, when we put the task force together, when Alan Mayorkas is confirmed as the Secretary of Homeland Security, maybe we'll have him come to this briefing room, or I'm officially inviting him here today to come to this briefing room. But there's no question that we recognize this is going to be incredibly challenging, that there will be a lot of work to be done, that is why this will be a priority. It's not only a priority for the president, but will be a priority for Secretary Mayorkas. But I will leave it to him and to others at the Department of Homeland Security to outline and preview for you the path forward. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. I know that President Biden and the First Lady are acutely aware of the sacrifices that military families make. That being said, we had an incident with the garage with the National Guard that was kind of embarrassing, and now I'm hearing from spouses of Guards members that they had a COVID outbreak and were not tested or vaccinated before they arrived in DC. And I'm wondering if there's any concern by the president about how these Guardsmen are being treated, whether he can do anything specifically to safeguard their health before they arrive, while they're here. Can he get vaccinations and testing to governors specifically for the purpose of providing some health safeguards to these soldiers?
Well, as you noted at the beginning of your question, but I would just reiterate the role of the National Guard, and I've spoken to the president about this directly, and the incredible sacrifices they make is something that is personal to him, given his family connection to the National Guard. He had called the head of the National Guard just last week when the reports came out about the treatment of the National Guard and the fact that many had been sleeping in garages, and of course conveyed his dismay of the photos he had seen and their treatment, and also offered his personally any help that he could provide, whether even if it was boosting morale. And certainly that line of communication remains open should there be something that he can do from his end. In terms of specific prioritization of the vaccine, I would point you to the Department of Defense and leaders over there to speak to that more